All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Stanley had absolutely no idea where he was going. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge on his way to the meeting room, just to... yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour, after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. Apparently, this room is so interesting you could just sit here forever. The looming thought of all your co-workers mysteriously disappearing, tucked blissfully away in the bowels of your brain. But as intoxicating as this room was, it was time for Stanley to get back to business. He took the first open door on his left and walked back. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this... Well, really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? I really don't know where you think you're going. There's nothing over here but empty corridors. And frankly, that's perhaps even... All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Stanley had absolutely no idea where he was going. Yes, truly a room worth admiring. But as intoxicating as this room was, it was time for Stanley to get back to business. He took the first open door on his left and walked back in the right direction. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really I'm not. This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor above his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee number 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had shown up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Entering his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. He began to feel sick from the shock. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway. Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. There was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? The answer, the terrible secret he would soon discover, lay buried in the depths of the underground complex he now entered. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large doors that read, Mind Control Facility. But whose mind was being controlled? What purpose could a mind control facility have down here? These questions raced in Stanley's head until the lights turned on and the panel beneath his feet began to move, at last revealing the truth of the situation. Walls full of monitors, each bearing the number of an employee in the building. Stanley's co-workers. Even his own number, 427, had a place on the wall, and the reality began to sink in. Stanley, like so many other people, reduced to images on a screen, had been under someone's control. Could this have been the only reason employee 427 was content with his boring job? That his emotions had been altered to accept it blindly? Did any of these people deserve to be commanded about like puppets? Stanley wouldn't have it. He couldn't accept it. And so when he came to the lift of the operation, he travelled up to the source of the room. From here, Stanley could see buttons labelled with emotions. Happy, sad. Levers and knobs controlled actions, walking, eating, or doing work. Every input monitored not the functions of a machine.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Stanley. Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized that he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, Nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation, then? Oh, let's make it, say, 2 minutes? Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what this all means. Well, I barely know where to start. Oh, what's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are. A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, I'm in a good mood and you're going to die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside. Or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I'll almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. You're the button beneath my finger, Stanley. You were not made to choose your fate. You were made to be pressed. Okay, I'm enjoying this far too much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. There we are. Oh, and while I'm at it, how about some more buttons to work with? See if any of those do anything. Wow. Did you hear that? That sounded really important. Hope you were paying attention. What is it, Stanley? You don't know where you're going? What you're supposed to be doing? Just running around hitting random buttons and hoping something changes? How could that be the case? You've played enough video games. You know what to do here. You start tearing about, trying desperately to find a solution. In fact, I bet you're still clicking on everything in this room, trying to make sense of this gibberish, trying to solve the puzzle. As though this game has a solution. As though it can be won. Is it actually what you think? Cute. Sorry, Stanley. That timer is not a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you pass. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine, but I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. 30 seconds, Stanley. 30 seconds until a boom and then nothing. No ending here. Just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go to pieces? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me. It's all part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the time we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.